monthly press briefing. Today, our focus is on the national security situation of the Gambia. We are lucky again to have very senior members of the United Democratic Party to be part of this press event. We have Ambassadors Amadou Tal, Ambassador Dr. Mamadou Lamin Sidat Diop, previously Foreign Minister of the Gambia, and His Excellency Mbemba Tambedou, former Deputy Chief of Mission of the High Commission of the Gambia to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Of course, my colleagues in the executive, Mr. J. Paul Takur and Mrs. Olidiba Wada, the Deputy Senior Administrative Secretary of the United Democratic Party. Of course, the man of the moment, the next President of the Gambia, His Excellency Lai Hussein Udabo, will lead the press conference. There are some talking points that the party leader will share with you, and then it will be followed by the usual Q&A on the issues and events of the day that the UDP has been trying to respond to. Again, welcome. Thank you for coming to the press briefing of the United Democratic Party. Your Excellency.
Thank you, Mr. Tal, and gentlemen of the press, and lady, of course, ladies of the press. Let me join Mr. Tal in appreciating your presence at this press conference on topical issues that are very current. And of course, the UDP, being one of the major political parties in the country, cannot go on being silent when major events are taking place in the country. Not only should we be heard, but we should also be heard to be giving or providing or suggesting solutions to these problems. Therefore, today we intend to address the issue of security, which is topical, an issue that is engaging the minds of everyone in this country. And indeed, the executive has come out with a statement on the state of the nation's security. There are other issues that may have some relevance or some bearing on the security of the nation, and some of these things we expect would be matters that would happen in the future, but at least it is proper that we mention them in this press briefing so that we can be alive to it when it comes up, so that our handling of the situation will not put the security of this country in jeopardy. Because crime and criminals have been in this country existed. It is over centuries, even before crimes in the country, and this led, of course, to the promulgation of the Criminal Code, which prescribes conducts that have been deemed to be socially unacceptable and criminalizing them. But never in the history of this country gruesome and heinous murders, rapes, and other crimes of violence being committed in this country. And these have direct bearing on the security of the state. It has a direct bearing on our personal safety, our personal security. offenses like armed robbery. Certainly, the reports that we have had show that the armed robbers go well armed, prepared to take the lives of their victims. And this is a state of affairs that cannot be allowed to continue, because we have agencies that are designated that are designated to handle this situation, to ensure that the rate of crime is curbed in the country. But are they prepared for it? Are they equipped for it? Let me register my appreciation to the Inspector General of Police and his team, the anti-crime unit, which has as their mantra zero crime. I want to congratulate them. But they could have done better. They would have done better if they are properly equipped. All these police stations in this country do not have the required vehicular the vehicular opportunity to move about as they would or as they should. You go to Fatou, you have rickety vehicles there. You go to this place in Sarangai, all these outstations, and these are the areas where criminals, criminals really have the opportunity to enter the country from outside. Yet, these stations are ill-equipped. Even proper communications facilities are not available to them. They have to be dependent on their cell phones, and the government does not provide them the units. As they provide, maybe permanent secretaries, free telephone calls. This is not provided to the police. The modern methods of crime detection and crime prevention are not put in place in the country. And of course, this would be done if our police really are trained, properly trained, and that their promotions and everything being dependent on how much they perform, on how well they acquit themselves in the discharge of their duties. They may be willing to really do the job, but they're hampered, they're handicapped. And the government will really take the necessary measure to ensure that the Gambia police force is properly resourced. They cannot just depend on gifts from philanthropists to really make their movement easy. In the majority of cases, in virtually all the stations, they do not even have motor bicycles that would facilitate their movement to places where their services may be needed. So the police force has been neglected, and because of that, they do not have the motivation. They really do not have the will to really do the work in the way they should do it. There has been an embargo on the recruitment of security personnel, including the police. While there's that embargo, you have having officers retiring and are not being replaced. So the numbers are dwindling, and this really also affects the operations of the police. Now, a UDP government will ensure that the police and all other security agents in this country, outfits in this country, are well motivated, not only in terms of remuneration, but also in terms of facilities that will make them operate efficiently and effectively in the manner that is expected of them. We'll ensure that things that we take for granted, like uniforms, will be made available to all the security forces. In fact, not just one uniform, but at least 3 sets of uniforms to be available to the police, excluding the ceremonial uniforms, because you don't put on ceremonial uniforms to go on duties, on daily duties. Yeah? And their conditions of work must also be improved. We will improve their conditions of work. The small huts we see around, police station in Marsengelo, those type of things, they do not give the officers, the incentive to work, because the environment itself is not conducive. You don't even know that, you don't even expect that would be a police station. These are things that the UDP government will want to put in place, not only for the police, but also for other security outfits in the country. Yeah? Training is very important and is very vital, and there must be a continuous training for the police, for the army, for the SIS, for the immigration, for the prison officers. And some of the times, it is not necessary that you send them out for this training. What we would do, we would encourage our partners who want to offer training facilities to members of our security forces to come to the Gambia and provide them the training in the country. Because when you are sending them abroad, you may send only 2. They may only provide for 2. But if the trainer comes into the Gambia, in the prison department, you could train about 20 people. If it is police, you could train about 50 people. So we would encourage our partners to send in trainers to train our people in the various facets of security management. And we believe that this is the way that we can really tackle crime, the rise in crime, by getting our officers efficient and effective. But more importantly is the cause, because the lack of incentive of the police officers may not be the cause, or could not be cause, or should not be the cause of the crime. I believe those who are engaged in these terrible activities are people who do not have anything to do, anything useful to do. The youths who are unemployed, they get frustrated. And out of frustration, they resort to drug use and abuse, drug use and drug abuse. And they fantasize. And then next thing they think is maybe break into a store and do away with what they can. Unemployment is really the root cause. We are not making any meaningful plans for those who are returning from Europe, those who have been sent back, because sometimes deportation connotes something ugly, but who have been sent back from Europe. They come and there's nothing that they come to. While ultimately they resort to crimes of violence, which we are now all victims of. So unemployment has to be tackled. Most of the people who go by the irregular route, usually are people with no appreciable level of education. Now, you need to really provide skills and training centers for these people in the various areas of a trade. As mechanics, you don't need a degree to become a good mechanic. in carpentry, in masonry, and so forth, and other areas of venture. This is what government ought to provide for our young people so that they do not have, the desire to go abroad. They would live in the Gambia here, make a decent living, and be good citizens. But when you return from Europe, you come into nothing, and sometimes we've seen how those who have come back, how they even turn on their parents to murder them. It will be, out of very strange, very un-Gambian for anyone to even face a parent and being engaged in an argument with him, much more than going to the level of taking his life. So these are issues that have to be addressed, and they don't have to be addressed just by rhetorics. Concrete steps have to be taken. And we have, in the past, stated, and we will reiterate it here, that for the Gambian youths, to make them stay here, our party, when we form the government, will ensure that there's fund created that these young men and women can tap into. When I say young men and women, because we see that young girls are also venturing this irregular route. So it is that terrible. So we must make sure that we keep them home busy, keep them home doing something useful, keep them home to live a decent life. This we have to do by creating the necessary funds. Some of these unnecessary expenditures that government gets involved in, wastage, I think it has to be curbed and those funds diverted to bear this worthy cause of getting our young people employed. We cannot blame them. We also have to take part of the blame for what is happening to them. While we appreciate that government cannot provide employment for each and every Gambian, we must also appreciate the fact that the government of the Gambia should at every time and at all costs provide the necessary environment that will make these young people self-employed, that will make these young people appreciate their self-esteem, and they would want to stay in this country and do for this country what every good citizen wants to do for his country. And by this way, we will certainly help curb crime. We cannot completely eliminate crime. Anyone who says that you're going to completely eliminate crime, you're just deceiving your audience. But we must take necessary concrete steps that will curb the rising rate of crime, and we must take measures that will deter people from committing crimes. And certainly what I have mentioned about the security forces, what they need to do, would be a way of deterring the people who are into this criminal enterprise, with the police being, I understand now the Republican Guards or National Guards have been given the fiat to really take part in patrolling, in assisting the police. It's just not enough to make that declaration. Give them the opportunity, give them the equipment, let them have the vehicles to go on patrol. When we were in school in Banjul, the police go on patrol throughout the night. They call them beat. That was what was happening. And so the criminals, or those who had any intention of committing any crime, really, they think twice, because the police are all over. There is absolutely nothing that prevents the government of the Gambia from providing at least 10 vehicles for the Kanifing municipality. so that the Kanifing police, the Gambia police in the Kanifing, could use those 10 vehicles in patrolling, the Kanifing area. And also in the tourism development area, the police ought to be well equipped so that they have the vehicle, the necessary vehicle to move around and conduct the patrols. Of course, in every country, the police know the dens of the criminals. But for you to attack that den, to break it, you have to be well protected yourself. Have you not seen a PIU officer stabbed? We have seen him stabbed, and he was going to arrest someone who had committed a crime. If those we expect to protect us become themselves victims, then it's something that to be worried about. We appreciate very much the president's statement coming though late. Maybe it should have happened. Even before the Sanya incident. It should have happened before the Sanya incident. But it's never late than never. But there's one thing that we should take our security, which is that we should take our security seriously. There's not a single Gambian who does not take his security seriously. But the president should realize that we have mandated him. We have given him authority to take care of our personal security. I expect President Barrow to take care of my personal security, Usain Daba, as a citizen of this country. And I expect him and his government to take care of the personal security of Mr. Takur, of Mr. Tal, because he has the mandate to do so. And that mandate, he cannot really, that mandate, he cannot really ignore or try to abdicate his responsibility by saying it's a collective responsibility. Of course, it's a collective responsibility, but the primary burden is on you to provide security for all of us, to ensure that we are protected. That is why you had to come out and address the Gambian people on the state of security in the country, because it's your personal responsibility. But that does not mean that we are oblivious to the fact that everyone has to cooperate with the law enforcement agencies. And we, at the United Democratic Party, we are more than willing to be partners with every security outfit in this country. We know that the Gambia has been the bastion of human rights, rule of law, and democracy. That is why we have earned the privilege of hosting the Center for Democracy and as well as the AU Commission on Human Rights. That's why we have been privileged to host it. That means that we should be law-abiding. Mob justice that we've seen recently on the social platform is something very worrying. Criminals have a right to our personal safety, just as you and I have a right to our personal safety. Let us arrest them if you do, but we hand them over to the police. Let us not subject them to this, cruel and inhuman treatment. It's not Gambian. That's very un-Gambian. Gambians don't normally hurt people. Even when somebody does something quite terrible, and others want to do something terrible to the person, they say, "Deflen danka, ala takunka, alkana barama." Don't hurt him. Let us please continue cultivating that culture of ours. Let us continue seeing to it that culture of ours stays. Anyone who commits crime and we are able to apprehend the person by citizen's arrest, let us hand over the person to the police, and let us see what the justice system will do to the person. I am confident that our justice system will not be sympathetic to criminals who break into people's houses at 2 o'clock in the morning, tie them up, and take away their personal belongings. If they are apprehended, I don't think the justice system will be sympathetic to them. They'll give them the treatment that they deserve according to law. So I want to appeal to all of us that we should not really do anything that will, in a way, taint our image as a country that prides itself in upholding human rights, in observing human rights, and upholding the rule of law. Of course, currently, the robberies that are taking place and other crimes of violence, that has made us focus on state of security. But then we know that currently we are engaged in voter registration. And of course, sometimes tempers can flare, on occasions like this. And it is the duty and responsibility of every Gambian to ensure that pre or post-election violence does not take place in this country, because those could be things that could put in jeopardy the security of this country. We have seen in other parts of Africa where political issues, where issues relating to improper conduct of elections have led to terrible situations. And proper conduct of elections commence with proper registration of voters. So that is why I say that that is an aspect of security that one should really not ignore, that the institutions that have been mandated to carry out this exercise should also know that they have a role to play in maintaining stability and security of this country, and maintain that by really doing the right thing and in the right way. No one suggests that the Independent Electoral Commission should be listening or doing what any stakeholder thinks should be done. No one is saying that. But then I'm suggesting, as a major stakeholder, that the security of our country, and indeed any country, also depends on how you hold your elections. And a proper election starts with proper registration. And, we just want to appeal to the IEC that what happened was used to happen in the Jammeh's time. Agents were allowed to sit at the registration centers, and they were allowed to really record those people who presented themselves for registration. And the agents were allowed to do so, and they could take the record and then go and report that XYZ is not qualified. I understand that they have been denied that. If Jammeh, with all his dictatorial tendencies, with all his efforts to scuttle free and fair elections, can allow that in his time, I don't know why in New Gambia, where we want a transparent elections, why it should not happen. After all, this will ensure the credibility of the IEC itself. Look, our system is transparent. UDP agent, you are free to take the name of Usainu Dabo. If you think he's not qualified, take the names. If you think he's not qualified, then you can go to a revising court. But how can you go to a revising court if you do not have access to the particulars of the individual who is registering? I think really we want to appeal to the IEC that in the interest of transparency, in the interest of your own integrity, let the agents take down the names, let them have access to the records. They can take down the names. And this was happening in Yahya Jammeh's time, it was happening in Sadauda's time. Why should it not happen now? I think really we should rethink. We should really rethink this. Taking a last number and a first number, yes, that used to happen in Jammeh's time. That used to happen in Jawara's time. But between the first and the last number, they also record those figures and the names between the first and last number. They do record them, and I think they should be allowed to continue. We want to congratulate the chairman of the TRRC and his commissioners. We also want to congratulate the council, the various council, lead council and his assistants, all those who were, took part in proceedings and leading and eliciting the truth. We want to congratulate them, as well as the support staff, the secretary, the executive secretary and the support staff. We also want to congratulate them for a job well done. Personally, I'm happy about a lot of the evidence that came up, because these were things that I had been saying on the UDP platform, that this is what is going on in this country. And there had been my allegations were brushed aside as being statements being made by a person who has absolutely no reason for making this statement, who is doing so out of ill will. That it was one of the opposition propaganda to smear and taint the image of this very good government that, in fact, are not good citizens. Well, I'm happy that it has now been, at least not the commission, but at least an opinion coming from people at the TRRC that what Jammeh has done qualifies him for prosecution for offenses against human rights. Yeah. But these findings of the commission could also have some security implication. That is why I'm mentioning it now. Because if really, whatever, we do not know what the recommendations are going to be, but if the recommendations are not properly implemented, it could be really opening up, dissatisfaction and disaffection in the country, and we shouldn't allow that. I hope that we will not allow that to happen. We know that the commission will submit its report very soon, and we also appreciate that government would not rush. It has to take time to consider the report, to debate on it, and to also get some informed opinion on some of the recommendations. But I do not think that with the caliber of those commissioners, recommendations would just be made, outlandish recommendations will be made. I don't think so, with the caliber, and of course, and as well as the submissions by the lead counsel on the evidence. I don't think any outlandish recommendations will be made, although government would have to have time. But I'm just saying this now because, you have to really think in advance that when this situation occurs, if I do not take a particular step, what could be the result of that? You have to think, as in fact, as politicians, as government, that's what you have to do. To look at the situations and say, look, what could happen if my actions or my decision as a government is this way or is that way? You have to weigh those things. And that is why I'm mentioning about the TRRC. It's not that I doubt the, it's just not that I doubt the commitment of the government. I do not doubt the commitment of President Adama Barrow to the TRRC and what the TRRC stands for. But then we just have to at least remind ourselves, even though we may be committed, but then we just have to remind ourselves so that, we do not really slow down on our commitments. Yeah? And gentlemen, what I have to, it has no I'm not sure whether it has any security relevance, but I think nonetheless, at least nonetheless, is we should say it, and that is the utter disappointment of the Gambian people and the Gambians in diaspora for the decision of the government of the Gambia and the IEC not to extend the franchise to them. I mentioned the government of the Gambia because IEC, from what could deduce from their statements, is that that they do not have the funds, and it is the government of the Gambia that can provide them the funds, and that's why I said the government and the IEC, and if the IEC could 1 year ago release a calendar to show that there would be registration of the diaspora in July, if they could do it more than a year ago, the funds must have been allocated, or there must have been plans to allocate the funds. And if no funds were allocated, this country is now accustomed to supplementary appropriation bills for a worthy cause like this. It will be a supplementary appropriation to raise funds to really implement a worthy cause. The Gambians have been deprived of that, and everyone is really disappointed that this is not happening. And we hope that in the next presidential elections, the Gambians in diaspora will have a say in the election of their president. And I even want to say that certainly, since it was the plan to have the registration, I was it in July, the National Assembly, in their next session, the Minister of Finance should take the appropriation bill to the National Assembly in June, so that the necessary funds will be made available to the IEC to conduct the registration. You cannot talk of any other logistics or no logistics of personnel, because you must have determined the requisite number of personnel that you would need. I'm sure you must have determined which countries qualify for to have them on the list, so that can. So all these things have been determined. That is why they rolled out the plan. They could not have rolled out the plan without really having concrete plans and very certain plans to do these events. So, gentlemen of the press, these are the few issues that we think we should bring to your attention. Of course, the old fashion of policing, really, which is happening in the Gambia. I think the Police Act, I don't know what year it was, 1946 or quite an old act. The Police Act, 1938, quite an old act. The situation then in the Gambia and the situation now in the Gambia are different. Criminals have evolved and they have developed. Their modus operandi, they have so refined it, that those old laws, those archaic laws, are not really adequate to take, care of them. So that and our police are operating under that law. So this archaic law, I think, should really also be looked into, and I believe the Minister of Interior has a responsibility really to do that. And well, if they don't, I can tell you that in 2022, the police will be very happy in this country. In fact, all security units in this country will be very happy in this country, because they will have their due. They'll have what they deserve. It's not what is happening to them now. They do not deserve that. We do not want to have small police stations here and there, ill-equipped. We want to have police station properly equipped. Serakunda Police You look at Serakunda police. You get in there, it smells. You go into their CID rooms, it smells. The environment is not conducive. How do you expect them to work? So that is why they would go and sit under the mango tree there. That's why they go and sit under the mango tree. And the same in Virtual Road Police Station. It's not their fault, but it's the fault of successive governments in the country. And that must halt. We must put a stop to that. And we are determined to do that. And we want to encourage the police and other security outfits that with the limited resources that they have at their disposal now, let them make the best use of it, and that in the next few months, other departments will be jealous of them because they'll see that they are being not preferred, but then they are being given what they deserve. Thank you very much, gentlemen of the press. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Party Leader, Secretary General, and Presidential Flag Bearer for the United Democratic Party. You all have heard the disposition of the party leader. Yes, the immediate occasion for our press briefing is security, but he has gone into some details to talk about current burning issues, the voter registration situation, the denial of diaspora vote. He has spoken also extensively about the work of the TRRC and the congratulations that he personally and the party as a whole is extending to the whole team, from the chairman, the lead council, and his team, and the executive secretary, because he is behind the scenes. I think a lot of us don't even know who the executive secretary is. It's Dr. Babagale Jallo. I think every Gambian is now proud of this outcome. So the security situation and what can be done, what needs to be done, the party leader has dilated on it very extensively, that capacities have to be built, the policing must be modernized. These are the hallmarks of leadership. The UDP government will make sure that the police get their due. And in fact, all the security apparatuses around the country would benefit from a considerate and a mature government that the UDP is going to provide. So we'll have a session on Q&As, questions and answers, around our team today. But of course, we know the media in a free democracy can ask any question. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think I will give the first question to the lady. I want to give the question to the lady. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
About the security, what are you doing or what are you tackling when it comes to like vehicles and bicycles or rider to give that security? What are you doing about that? Are you going to give them, or you're suggesting to the government or the people to come on board to give them that things?
No. Sorry, I don't seem to understand. You say whether. No. So I don't get it.
The question is UDP going to help the security situation by donating to the police and motor bicycles and vehicles?
Okay. Yeah. Well, we as a party we want the institutions like the police to be independent, and we do not want to establish any relationship with the police that will remotely suggest that we want to influence them, in the performance of their duty. So as a party, we certainly will not make donations of, well, we would be hesitant. We'll be hesitant. I will not say we will not, but we'll be hesitant to make donations of nature of motorbicycles. Well, my opinion as to whether Yahya Jammeh has committed any crime, I did say that I have been vindicated because from 1996 up to April 2016, I have always told the Gambian people, I've always told the international community that Yahya Jammeh is really managing a criminal den. And we have always referred to the NIA as being, the instrument that has been used by Jammeh to suppress dissent. We have said so. So we had expressed that view. So it's just not an opinion. But we had expressed those views. And as I said, whenever we say these things, they say that we are talking out of malice, that we just don't want Yahya Jammeh as president, that we are lying against him. So we were just not expressing opinions. We are just expressing facts. Because the NIA, being an instrument of torture, we related it to our own people. We related it to Singul Nyasi. We said so. We related it to Sajo Kunjansane, to Jajane, our people in Brikama. We related it to Dutelo. We related it to Sajo Kunjansane. We related it to Sanyang. Yeah? We related Ahmad Kora. We related to all those people. So, it was not just an opinion we are stating facts, and we are happy that at least, not the commission itself, but at least the submissions of lead counsel, has really lent credibility to what we have been saying in the past. So it's just not an opinion. It was during the proceedings that the gruesome nature of the activities on the Jammeh came to light. We all suspected of the Ghanaians. We all suspected that this was a government organized was a government organized murder. We all said so. But then nobody who participated in it could come at that time to say, yes, we did it. Now we have it. So I'm not expressing an opinion. I was not expressing an opinion. I'm happy that UDP has been vindicated, because as the only political party that has borne the brunt of Yahya Jammeh's torture, Yahya Jammeh's oppressors, is UDP, including its leadership. Now, your second question about the we continue to receive disconcerting information, but then for me as a lawyer, I always say, let me have the evidence. I just don't want to go out and say the IEC has done this, the IEC has done that, without me really having the evidence at my disposal. If I do have, certainly I will come out with a statement on it to say the IEC has done this wrong, the IEC has done that wrong. I have mentioned here that what used to happen in Jawara's time and Yahya Jammeh's time, the IEC is not allowing that. I'm appealing to that they should allow it to happen, because for transparency, for their own integrity. Yeah. And your third question was the... Yeah. It is not only the only reason, but it is the major. It is the major reason. You find people who commit these acts of violence. You find them, in street you meet them, they appear to be well respected. They are in gainful employment, but for some reason, like rape, it's certainly not because of unemployment. Yeah? I think there may be some underlying reasons for it. Yeah? But this, we mentioned it because these are crimes of violence, and it's really happening in the country. So unemployment cannot or should not be, the cause of this rampant rape. But then armed robbery, really, people want to have something. They really want to have something. And this, because they are unemployed, so they have to resort to that. Drug abuse. Yeah, but they are unemployed. They think, if they take that, they hallucinate. How do they get into cloud high? So, and then sometimes, because of the situation of their minds, they go and commit crimes of violence. But the major cause of it really is unemployment. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Dr. I work for the Daily Newspaper. My question is, you will talk about those who are deported from the back and then engaged in crimes. What a UDP government, what measures will the UDP government put in place to make sure those crimes are combated? And then also the prison service. And then what measures will UDP government will put in place to make sure that those who commit crime, once you are sent to jail and your life will change if you come back?
Well, thank you. Now, in the first place, what a UDP government would do is would enter into respectable arrangements with the countries where our citizens live and where there are plans to have them deported, to send back home. We will ask those countries to really consider the cases of the individuals on their merits. Those who have really committed crimes and they have gone through due process in the country, they have been convicted and served their sentence, of course, that host country, you cannot appeal to the host country to keep them. But we would also request from the host country a list of those individuals so that we would know they would serve their sentences at this time and they would be due for deportation or be sent back home. And then we would start making plans for them when they come. Now, those who have an irregular immigration status, they have not been involved in any crime, and there are people who can be trained. I hope, gentlemen, you are listening, and who are trainable. We'll ask the countries to help us train them in the field in which they have the potentials, so that they could come back home skilled, trained. And in some cases, you'll find that the host country will even employ them. I know of people who have left this country, who have gone through the President's Award Scheme here, did mechanic training there. They've gone there through the back way. Now they are employed because of their skills. They are employed. And those who really can go to follow the academic training, will appeal that let them allow the opportunity to train and then come back. I think, these governments in European governments would certainly be sympathetic to these approaches. And of course, when those who are here and wanting to go, you have to do something to prevent them from leaving the Gambia. And this will be really the area of providing them opportunities to actualize their potentials. The funds that I talked about, establish those funds, and then the serious ones, they will tap into those funds and establish businesses. It doesn't have to be the business of importing, It could be the business of growing cashew. It could be the business of growing vegetables. It could be the business of being engaged in aquaculture. It could be the business of engaging in fishing. These are very dignified undertakings. So we'll certainly do that. And indeed, those who want to venture in agriculture, it is our plan, UDP's plan, to have an agricultural development bank back in this country. And we also would want to encourage the other commercial banks to open up a development unit within the bank so that they could advance loans to people who want to go into this undertaking at rates that are competitive, not at the 20%. Because you give 20%, you give a loan of $3 million to a young man of 35 to go into even poultry. To go into poultry, the first month, 20% of that is a huge amount of money during the unproductive periods of the venture, and then it gets on increasing. Yeah? So we would ask them that the development so that they can have competitive rates, to finance these projects, because it will be in the interest of all of us. They would be your customer. Whatever they realize from their business, they would put it in their accounts in your bank. Yeah? Well, my comments on the IECDs and Gambians abroad will not be raised. I think I have already dealt with that. Yeah, I've already dealt with that, and it is regrettable. Now the economic. Now, does the situation exist that made it imperative for economic to be deployed to the Gambia? Does that situation exist? And certainly, if the economic is here to protect the territorial integrity of the Gambia, I think then they are very few, because the number is few. And also, if it is here to really ensure internal security, still I would think that the number is small. And then, if it's they would not just be stationed in the greater Banjul area, they would be as far away as Basse and Fatou if it's internal security. Yeah? But it does appear that economic is here to protect individuals. And it is my view that the situation, I think, has changed so drastically that there shouldn't be a need for economic. I mean, in 2016, in 2017, 2018, there was absolutely a need for it. But I think with what I'm being told is happening in some of the security outfits, maybe it is time to rethink economic presence in the Gambia. One thing I can tell you is that with Hussein Dabo at State House, if economic stay, they would have other responsibilities. But then the personal security of me as president, I would give it to the Gambian security officers. If they feel they want to kill me, let them do it. If they think that they want to assassinate me, the Gambians, let them do it. But I shouldn't seek protection from economic and not really rely and be dependent on the army of which I am the commander-in-chief. I should have enough confidence in them. If I do not feel that, they do not deserve my confidence, I'll treat them in another way. But certainly, for personal security, I don't think I want to depend on the economic for that. I would rather depend on the army, of which I am the commander-in-chief. And I'll give them instructions, not operational instructions, by the way. I will let them know that I have absolute faith in them, and that if any member of the Gambia Armed Forces or the security outfit feels that can no longer deal with me, they want to assassinate me, let it be. Let it be. I'm not sure whether you have it anywhere. I'm not sure even in Guinea-Bissau, if you have the presidency being protected by foreign forces, by foreign forces. And I say foreign forces because people tend to think that these are Senegalese, here on the instruction of the Senegalese authorities. No, they are here at the behest of the ECOWAS head of authorities. So this is deployed here, and not necessarily by the government of Senegal. So that is my take on it. I want to have the Gambians man State House. I want to have the Gambians man the Vice President's residence. I want the Gambian security man all our installations. And if they become unpatriotic and do something else, I mean, they will answer to the Gambian people for that, and not to me personally. Yeah.
Yes. Please identify yourself and ask your question.
My name is Landy from Kerr. My question is basically the health sector. We've seen the Gambia demographic survey launched since the London report has indicated that the infant mortality and the maternal mortality in the country has reduced. In fact, the infant mortality has increased, but the maternal mortality from 2013 survey to this year's survey, the statisticians say, statistically, no one can say the maternal mortality rate has reduced in the country, even though the minister otherwise misinterpreted the surveys, percentage-wise. So what is the plan, or what are some of the plans the UDP government will put in place in order to tackle this health issue, this major health issue in the country? Because I am doing a study on this, and then I contacted a lot of health centers across the country, not in Greater Bangalore area, but even the rural areas. What they are complaining is quite shocking that even the ambulances, they don't have it. Some of them, if someone is about to deliver, they have to travel that particular facility. They don't pick up from their home to health centers or clinics. So what are some of the the UDP government will put in place to tackle this major health issue in the country? Thank you.
Okay. Just like the police, it is also another sector that appears to be neglected. And when I say appears to be neglected, I'm saying so very advisedly. It is under-resourced. Of course, I mentioned here that when you make vehicles available to the police, they must not be like the hospital, where you need an ambulance. The ambulance driver will tell you that I don't have fuel. But these are the major problems. Not prioritizing the issues of the country. That is why we very prominent in our 5-point agenda is health. Health is very, very prominent. I think it's probably agenda number three, of our 5-point agenda. Look, it is sad to see a person die when she is giving life. When she is giving life. It is sad to see that. Yeah. Now, the health facilities need to be overhauled. They need to be well equipped. Now, what you do find here in most parts of the country is that you have community-funded health centers. And with these community health government-funded health centers, the government is not giving them adequate support. I can name 10. People in the diaspora building health centers or clinics, health facilities in their areas. And they put up these facilities, and yet they do not have the personnel to operate them. And again, just like the police, the nurses, the midwives, they are not being taken care of in the way they should be taken care of. And after all, for a lot of these people, it's not the money, it is the job satisfaction that they want. How can you have midwives, operate in a hospital where the basic facilities are not available? It frustrates them. When you talk to some of them, money is just secondary. One who is born and bred in Banjul and leaves to go to Fatou to work in the health center there, you must know that she has commitment. She's not looking for the money. She's looking for job satisfaction. She wants to do something for her community, for her country. And these people, they have to be appreciated. So UDP government will first ensure that the environment, the facilities that they need for them to perform their midwifery duties and functions are made available to them. Now, if you go to my home, Bansang, go to the staff quarters. It's not as it was when I was going to school. Go to Bansang. When I was going to school, the moment you enter the compound, the first, the smell that you pick up tells you that this is a hospital. But that's not the situation now. And the same thing with the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital. In the 60s, in the 70s, you know that this is a real hospital. In fact, Edward Francis Small Hospital, then Victoria Hospital, was regarded as the cleanest hospital in West Africa. But it's deteriorating. And really, that environment, even serves, this incentive for those who are working in the environment. So these are issues that have to address. And then of course, as I said, we have to stop the wasteful expenditures. We have to stop the wasteful spending and divert those funds into these areas where the common man will benefit from it. As I said, very soon we'll be unveiling publicly, our 5-point agenda, and then you'll see the depth of it.
Ladies and gentlemen of the media, I think we have been here for nearly 2 hours now. We thank you again for coming, and we will call you again, of course, like the party leader has said. We have a manifesto to live for and to die for in 2021. Once it is unveiled, I think if not all your questions, most of your questions would be answered in some detail and with knowledge and expertise and experience that you will have no choice, you will have no doubt that UDP is the next government of the Gambia. So thank you very much for coming, and we will adjourn for today, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much.
When we touch down, better broke down.
Gamtel G-Fiber, now you can enjoy super fast internet in gigabytes. G-Fiber is affordable, stable, secured, and accessible to homes, businesses, and enterprises. With Gamtel G-Fiber, the future is speed. Gamtel, creating a brighter future in communication.
That's how she became mine and see that.
For all your pastry, bakery, and quality food, CK Restaurant is the only place to be. We do catering for birthdays, weddings, and all related services. We have all kinds of local foods, American, European, and even beyond. Come and have a taste of our local juice, ebe, and other services. At CK Restaurant, customer satisfaction is our priority.
Love like fire. Wow. Love like fire. Xam ngeen rek affaire bi xam ngeen fan la skincare la 2020 lañ wax de waaw fii nag mooy Kerr fan Kerr zero tache perfect skincare saa su ne rek niñ ko dee defee rek loo lañ soxlaati rek maanaam bu ngeen am problème ci seen skin yéen xam ngeen fan la fii ngeen di ñëw suma xarit yeeg am di jàmm yi nga xam ne taas daf lañ sonaloon xam nga doon xeesal ba la ka xum éneew ma lañ ko nag waaye just in case comme ni ko gars yi defee rek en cas just in case loolu xew xam ngeen fi ngeen di ñëw fii ngeen di ñëw skincare plus si yu baax rek la ñoo dox nag ay baax rek fu ne la ñoo dem ci réew mi di lañ indi rek nag products yu baax du Paris du Italie du USA du fi mu nekk nii sax boole nañ ci nag Sweden fu nekk lañ leen a indilee products bu dee tamit nag da nga ñuul rek ñu lay jamaa natural beauty that melanin dripping we do have stuff for you as well emuñ si skincare products rek ñu ngi ci cuub yi tamit fu ne la ñoo jaar in fact sax last commercial bi ñu defoon waxuñ leen woon dañoo dox ci ay kawar 9A grade rek nag waaw we do have bundles as well hair si lu ne la ñoo dox ñun ñu ngi ci rafetal jigéen rek luy taaral jigéen rek waaw boo leen di tukki tamit bëggoon rek classic suitcase ñu dañoo dox ci ay Samsonite duñ dee indi any brand of suitcases though other than Samsonite comme li ma dee wax rek boo eggee airport diri Samsonite dafa am nuñ laa xoolee waaw ngeen ne lan nag waaw skin ci moom la ñu gën a xamee nag skin care products ci moom la ñu gën a xamee ñu ngi dox tamit bentee tamit si ay dàlla man waaye man nag skin care mooy suma specialty xam nga rek jigéen bu sa xar kanam réglé loo def mu jag am nañ Patricia Reiner, Kiwi Eye, the whole range, Lighten Up Gold, Tomatine. I mean, the list can just go on and on and on and on. lépp loo xam ne rek luy taaral jigéen la ci yooyu rek la ñoo dox skincare plus nag emuñ si Gambia rek ñu ngi United States ñu ngi Gambia fii ba pare bu dee yaa ngi anywhere in Europe mun nañ la ko mail within 3 days rek ñetti fan rek nga jot say diw amuñ si loolu rek dañ laa consult tamit balaa ñu laa jaay diw dinañ def a free consultation pour wax la rek exactly li nga xam ne moo méngoo ak sa kanam dinañ leen wax tamit ne rek am nañ perfumes, you know, fragrances, men's shirts, accessories. We do dresses as well. We do blouses. I mean, we do shoes. Name it, we do them. Skincare Plus 2020 is our year of perfection. Zero task. Fi mu nekk nii réew mi fii kenn waratu fi task. Kenn waratu fi am problème kanam. Kenn waratu fi am problème picture. Boo ko amee dafa fekk ne rek ñëwuloo ci place bi fii.